African spirituality, Christianity, Hinduism, the reason why there's an issue with this New Age spirituality is not spirituality in fact, yet rather the fact, or rather because people are fragmenting sacred practices. They're appropriating Eastern, Asian, spiritual and or religious beliefs. They're appropriating African practices that they have no guidance within. You're not being guided by an elder. Distributed information and a sacred knowledge via, someone that doesn't even know what they're talking about, via social media, via, anything other than where you should actually be seeking that information. And that seems to be the case for that person. I have to be discerned on at least what is my intent as I am pursuing, Christ. What is my intent as I am pursuing becoming a Muslim? What is my intent when I'm pursuing becoming Jehovah's Witness? What is my intent? What is my intent? Because 9 times out of 10, if you don't know what you're pursuing you're going to have horror stories saying, damn, being Christian fucking sucked. Being Muslim was terrible. Being Jehovah's Witness was awful. If you go in for all the wrong reasons and if you go in without a reason. Because that content creator, for example, was saying, mediumship is of witchcraft, everybody took that and ran with it. I can't say whether or not mediumship is innately or inherently evil, but what I can say is what can make this practice become evil is the fact that you're summoning and or conjuring the dead. And according to the Christian faith, you should not be conversing with the dead. But if that's the case, when you're praying to Jesus, you need to stop doing that because Jesus is dead. You're summoning the dead. You're conjuring the dead. Even moreover, and then you had some people talking about rituals. Eucharist is a ritual. Communion is a ritual. So when you're breaking of flesh and you're drinking of blood, you're performing a ritual. You do that in the woods with a cloak on around a bonfire in the deepest, darkest part of the wood and have me walk up on you. I'll be like, what kind of ritual, what kind of witchcraft is that? And I don't say this to furthermore push a belief of spirituality or to push a belief of religion, but I am honestly a person of truth. I'm not suggesting that I'm the absolute truth, but what I am saying is I seek the truth. I don't seek to push my own biases. This one girl was talking about what, widget or wicked. Oh, bet you won't see me drawing those symbols that I don't know nothing about and nobody can explain to me, but I'm looking it up on Google because I'm trying. No, what are you doing? Put that down. So within this commentary, as entitled, we will be discussing New Age spirituality, but I just wanted to inform you as to why I wanted to have this conversation, because as of recently, one of my favorite content creators returned back to the platform of YouTube after a year-long hiatus. When they left YouTube, they left in silence, they left abruptly, swiftly, seamlessly, and then they returned a week ago, and we took a hoe, anyways, they returned about a week ago, and when they returned to their platform, they returned anew. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were refreshed, but they returned in a way that was of growth and enlightenment. So nonetheless, it was a drastic change from what us audience members were acclimated to, because when this individual introduced themselves to the platform of YouTube, they were mostly spiritual. I didn't know at the time that they were practicing within African spirituality on the surface level, as this individual mentioned. They didn't get too deep into the practice or into the faith, but they were surface level African spiritualists, but they were spiritual. They discussed theology, they discussed metaphysics, and that's what attracted me to that person. Really, the theology and the metaphysical conversations. And as the content creator was duly monologuing, as they too were engaging in a dialogue with their given audience, there was a sub-conversation created within the audience towards two different demographics. It was religion versus spirituality. It was Christian versus the occult. And it was quite comparable to bearing witness to a political debate and or argument between the two major political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's like, you're both here for a common goal. You're just reaching that goal or pursuing that goal in a different manner. Yet, because of these indifferences, you find it hard to respect the other person's stance. So conclusively, as the content creator was monologuing their experience, furthermore engaging in a dialogue with their given audience, it appeared as if the negative experiences that they experienced within the occult had everything to do with African spirituality, furthermore suggesting that African spirituality is evil, that African spirituality is of witchcraft, that the occult should not be dabbled within. And I definitely believe that you should not be dabbling in the occult if you have no understanding, if you do not have the intentions that align with said practice in a way that would encourage a positive result. Quite the same with religion. Don't pursue Christianity and you don't have the intent to yield that information accordingly. Almost comparable to Kevin Samuels. And I don't really watch his commentary, as I don't watch his commentary, but I hear snippets of what he says, and oftentimes he refers to the Bible and he quotes the Bible, and yes, some of his points are of validity, but when he's yielding these scriptures, when he's referring to the Bible, when he's referring to Christianity, his actions contradict the word of God. Or as seen in the Book of Eli, starring Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington was carrying precious cargo. Said precious cargo was the Bible. He had to be secretive about his carrying of this cargo because he knew if it fell within the wrong hands, it would be yielded improperly. So that's quite comparable to the practice of Christianity, comparable to any practice of religion and or spirituality. Is it inherently evil? No. Now, there are some practices that are, in fact, inherently evil. Like, I'm not going to go into detail as to what it is, but you could probably think of a few. But nonetheless, is it inherently evil? Is Christianity inherently evil? No. But can it become that way? Yes, it can. So that's what I'm saying. Like, anything that is good can become bad. Is it inherently bad? No. But can it become bad? Yes. But a lot of and when I say their, I'm referring to the content creator. The content creator's audience, again, became, I don't know, it was one of those situations where they heard one thing that they were not in agreement to, and they continued to ponder on that for the entirety of that conversation. And from my perception of things, I feel as though the shift within the audience, the discourse occurred because said content creator did not fully elaborate on points that were valid. And because these points of validity aligned with their Christian faith, it furthermore appeared to give ammunition to various Christians within that individual's live chat to furthermore assert their Christian faith and to furthermore demonize anyone else that is not of favorance to that faith. Not suggesting that this is what all Christians do, but that demographic, that audience, those Christians within those live chats were demonizing, somebody else's religious faith and their practice. You had a few that were just like, it is what you believe, but God is a savior, God is this, and, left it as that. But there were some people that were really going hard, like hard in the paint. I'm like, whoa. Because that content creator, for example, was saying, mediumship is of witchcraft, everybody took that and ran with it. I can't say whether or not mediumship is innately or inherently evil, but what I can say is what can make this practice become evil is the fact that you're summoning and or conjuring the dead. And according to the Christian faith, you should not be conversing with the dead. But if that's the case, when you're praying to Jesus, you need to stop doing that because Jesus is dead. You're summoning the dead. You're conjuring the dead. Even moreover, and then you had some people talking about rituals. Eucharist is a ritual. Communion is a ritual. So when you're breaking of flesh and you're drinking of blood, you're performing a ritual. You do that in the woods with a cloak on around a bonfire in the deepest, darkest part of the wood and have me walk up on you. I'd be like, what kind of ritual, what kind of witchcraft is that? And I don't say this to furthermore push a belief of spirituality or to push a belief of religion, but I am honestly a person of truth. I'm not suggesting that I'm the absolute truth, but what I am saying is I seek the truth. I don't seek to push I don't seek to push my own biases. The issue for said content creator was merely that they were running from the truth. It wasn't necessarily what they attempted to ascribe to spiritually as in African spirituality, because I mentioned previously, they did not become indoctrinated in that faith or that practice. They merely touched the surface, but nonetheless, what became an issue for this content creator, or rather for this individual, as we speak of their experience, was the fact that they were running from the truth. They were running from faith. They were running from God. You even look back on their channel and they discuss my journey into faith brokenness. They have conversations about why they decided to move to California. They have a conversation about, journeying into faith to be transformed. This individual has always been on this spiritual conquest. They were just leading themselves further away from the truth of the matter and becoming disillusioned in deceit. Thus, they were easily mistreated because they were vulnerable. They were vulnerable because they were without truth, and they were searching for reasoning where reason didn't reside. You know what I mean? Instead of going to God, not to, be disrespectful to anyone's spiritual belief or religious practice, but for this person specifically, they are now ascribed to the Christian belief. So instead of running to God, instead of running to the church, instead of running to the Bible, instead of running to Christianity, they ran furthest from that because they were seeking something they did not receive in that moment from Christ, or something they perceived was not to be found within Christ. So they went to, African spirituality, which in turn was a negative experience for them, not just because there are dark-sided aspects to that practice, but because one, they went in uninformed, and two, they were basically touching on fragments of a practice that is almost as sacred or as, how do you say? What I'm trying to say without being too pretentious or anything, it's just like African spirituality, Christianity, Hinduism. The reason why there's an issue with this New Age spirituality is not spirituality in fact, yet rather the fact, or rather because people are fragmenting sacred practices. They're appropriating Eastern Asian, spiritual and or religious beliefs. They're appropriating African practices that they have no guidance within. You're not being guided by an elder. You're being distributed information and a sacred knowledge via, someone that doesn't even know what they're talking about, via social media, via, anything other than where you should actually be seeking that information. And that seems to be the case for that person. Yes, like I believe in everything that person was discussing in that live. Although I do not agree, I can believe or acknowledge various sentiments. Like, for example, this person was discussing how yoga can be demonic. This person was discussing how crystals can be demonic. And it very well can be demonic. Although it is not inherently demonic, although it does have qualities and or properties that could very well be beneficial to us as creation, it wasn't created for us to idolize. And that's what happens at times with people who utilize crystals. Some people utilize crystals as a mere means to manifest, love. Like, for example, rose quartz is the crystal of love. So I see some people, they're like, I can't have love without my rose quartz. My rose quartz is the only reason why I have love in my life, to where you're like idolizing this crystal. You're idolizing this mineral. You're idolizing this rock as if it's giving you all that you need in life. In reality, like, that may not be the case. And then even with yoga, you're relaxing your body to a state where you can be conjured, or where you can conjure to a degree. For some people, that can take place. So that's what she was referring to when she said, like, things can become demonic. She wasn't actually just saying, like, oh, stretching your limbs and like circulating blood through your body is demonic. No, she was just saying your intent merely can become demonic in practice. You know what I mean? So, and that's another thing that could be recognized when you look at her venturing into African spirituality. Her intent wasn't to necessarily pursue it as one should pursue it, with awareness to how potent, for the lack of better wording or phrasing, that practice can be. Like, she just went in like, okay, well, like, I need something right now. I'm looking for something, so I'm just gonna look further into this, but not really look in it with caution, look in it with like a curiosity to fill a void, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making much sense, because this is very informal and impromptu. But what I really wanted to say, because I was going back, because I really want to understand this person. I never want to judge this person and their progress. And I am definitely commending them on returning to Christ, as that is what is nurturing their spirit, as that is what is feeding them as they are. I commend them for returning to Christ, for becoming a born again Christian, because, you know, Christ or Christianity was this person's origins from how they discuss their journey in faith. But nonetheless, you know, I was watching a video that they discussed when they were explaining moving to Cali, answering questions about moving back to California or moving to California. And said content creator was discussing how you have to put yourself in a position to grow. And to a degree, I agree. To a degree, I agree. To a degree, I agree with what this person was saying. But when they said that, it just made a little more sense as to why they moved as they moved, and why their experiences proceeded as they proceeded. I think my issue is just like how people try to blame it on spirituality, or some people try to blame it on religion. Like, no, this is a situational incident. As it does pertain to religion and spirituality, that is not the sole cause as to why this individual experienced the calamity or the consequences within their life. You know what I mean? Like, if you know the content creator I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. But I think it was interesting within the live that they recorded a week ago. It was interesting not just to hear what they were discussing, but why they were discussing what they were discussing, why their experiences were experienced as they were experienced. Like, it's asking yourself who, what, when, where, and why, rather than just talking about, oh, she's a Christian now, and she's demonizing yoga, and she's demonizing crystals. No, listen, have discernment and listen. Have discernment and listen. It became a conversation amongst this individual's given audience, to where it became spirituality versus religion, Christianity versus the occult. And it's like, listen, to a degree, everyone is pursuing a common goal. And it seems almost comparable to that of the Democratic and or Republican Party. Like, listening to that dialogue was similar to that. And I'm just like, just quiet the noise and listen. Take your personal sentiments elsewhere for the time being and listen, and you'll gain a better sense of what this person is saying. I definitely, just from the standpoint, and it's crazy. It's crazy too, because there's certain things, I think, when you're not fully aware of what's going on in a person's life, and when people are speaking vaguely, as they should on social media, when you're disclosing personal aspects of yourself, you don't fully see things happening until it comes together. And that live that commentator did was like the coming together moment. And yeah, like, I can say for this content creator, they may possibly need maybe therapy, just someone to continually have these conversations with, not even necessarily to be diagnosed, but just to have continual conversations so that they can further mediate any distress or any resurrection of those traumas. You know what I mean? Even if it's finding like a good counseling with their preacher, what have you, because, you know, a lot of people don't realize if, I don't know, it depends on your church and it, depends on your pastor, but I saw a statistic saying that most preachers have doctorates if they have gone to school to actually become who they are. So, you could probably talk to a nice, preacher and get some therapy that way too. But anyways, I just thought that was just one of the most interesting lives to watch because it was one of the most unexpected transitions. But if you actually follow this person, it's really not as unexpected as it appeared. It was just crazy because it's like, dang, how did I not see this coming? It wasn't like it was unexpected, but it's like, oh, like it's happening now, Like this person has always been struggling with their walk with Christ. So it doesn't come as a surprise that they are a devout Christian at this very moment. This was something that they always wanted to do. They just went through certain things that pulled them closer to God. Now we can further analyze, various aspects of that individual's life, but for the most part, I think what just really bothered me is just the dialogue in the live chat section. I'm just like, y'all, what? Long story short, what I would suggest to anybody, may it be religion or spirituality, don't venture into something without navigation, without reasoning, without clarity, when there is still an inner turmoil that is riddling you. You should not pursue a change unless it is indefinite to resolve that inner turmoil. You know what I mean? Like for me, like I just pursue life with this perception, like I'm just, God is my focus. God is like at the forefront of my mind. God is like my navigation, my, God and myself. I have to be grounded in myself too, to really surrender to God fully. But to even get to that point of surrenderance, like I have to be willing, I have to be assured, I have to have some form of clarity. Even in the midst of confusion, I have to be discerned on at least what is my intent as I am pursuing, Christ. What is my intent as I am pursuing becoming a Muslim? What is my intent when I'm pursuing becoming Jehovah's Witness? What is my intent? What is my intent? Because 9 times out of 10, if you don't know what you're pursuing it, yeah, you're going to have horror stories saying, damn, being Christian fucking sucked. Being Muslim was terrible. Being Jehovah's Witness was awful. If you go in for all the wrong reasons, and if you go in without a reason, a true reason, that is adjacent to the indoctrinated faith you are choosing to ascribe to. Because like I see so many different individuals come on this platform of YouTube disclosing how they're no longer dealing with spirituality, they're no longer dealing with religion, but especially with spirituality, because it's so vague and or ambiguous. I hear a lot of people talk. I was like, listen, ma'am, this new age of religion, this new age of spirituality can be a bit deceitful, because again, there is a lot of appropriation, there is a lot of fragmentation within this realm of new age spirituality and or new age religion. Because you're going to Google to learn about Christ, yeah, that's the introduction, but maybe like pick up the Bible and actually read the full Bible. You're trying to learn how to become a Muslim. I mean, go and if you're like, on your Black Power stuff, go talk to somebody within the Nation of Islam before you just devote yourself to merely watching speeches of Malcolm X and, watching documentaries on the Black Panther. That's a wonderful introductory. But if you're trying to really solidify yourself within a structured practice, like take yourself to these places where you can be properly introduced. I know my friend, she's a Jehovah's Witness. I can't explain it in the way that she explained it to me, but like there are I could, but it's just it's not even complex. It's just a lot to explain, and I don't feel like doing that. But there's various people in place to guide her and inform her properly when she does Bible study, or her reasoning for doing Bible study is to understand her faith and to understand how to practice said faith accordingly, how to be the best Jehovah's Witness she can be. You know what I mean? To be the best woman she can be. So it's just a matter of like guidance, a matter of adequate distribution of knowledge and truly knowing where this knowledge is derived, the origin of information you're receiving. This one girl was talking about what, widget or wicked. Oh, bet you won't see me drawing those symbols that I don't know nothing about and nobody can explain to me, but I'm looking it up on Google because I'm trying. No, no, what are you doing? Put that down.